If there's one thing that we can all agree upon, it's that life is going to challenge you, life is going to test you, life is going to throw curveballs your way, and sometimes these challenges are so painful, you don't even want to wake up the next morning. You don't want to get out of bed, like you don't know what to do. And I've been there plenty of times in my life, and I'll share that here in a little bit. But I really want you to understand today's episode is to give you a different perspective, to give you a different mindset shift when it comes to viewing the pain, because pain, it's actually a great motivator. It's a great educator, and it can change and challenge and help you grow into the best version that you want to become physically and mentally if you want to, right? You can continue to view pain as the glass looking half, empty and just being a negative Debbie Downer, and I get it, right? Some things in life that we go through, challenges, deaths, sicknesses, illnesses, all these things, right? Like it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be in a funk. It's okay, but you can't let that just eat you up each and every single day. No, you have to be able to just understand like, hey, when do I have to let go and move on? And once again, hopefully in today's episode, it's going to give you a different perspective shift to just give you more clarity. So for starters, let's talk about health and fitness. Even though I'm a health and fitness coach, I talk a lot more about the mindset. I talk a lot more about mental strength rather than just the physical strength, because I feel like that's easy to acquire. But let's just use the physical strength for a great analogy since we're talking about pain, right? You already know that, at least you should know, when you go to the gym and let's say you start working out, you are not building muscle when you're working out. When you're focusing on progressive overload, lifting heavier weights, right? You are not building muscle. In fact, you're doing the exact opposite. You are tearing down the muscle. Where you're actually building the muscle at is from the hydration, from the nutrition, and from the recovery aspect. Not from actually going down to the gym and working out, right? That requires you to break down the muscle. But hey, if I keep on showing up, no matter how sore I feel the next day, or the DOMS, right? The delayed onset muscle soreness, we've all been there, We know it's a painful situation waking up the next 2 days, right? On a hardcore leg day, and you can barely, get off the toilet and barely, walk up and down the stairs. We've all been there. But we also know, hey, why do we continue to put ourselves in that pain? Because it's going to help us move towards pleasure. It's going to help us get one step closer to our goals. So when life is throwing us these challenges, we have to understand that sometimes, right, maybe it's not us that's moving towards our goals, but maybe it's something that's pushing us closer to our goals, and we can't see it in the midst of that storm. And this is called having an optimistic viewpoint. This is called having faith that everything is all going to work out in the end. Everything is all working out in your favor. Steve Jobs actually has a quote that I absolutely love about this. He says, you cannot connect the dots looking forward in life, but you can always connect the dots looking backwards in life. So my first thing that I want to go over with you, right, is the different perspective shift and how sometimes the pain, we can actually find the strength through the struggle in the midst of all that. Let's just go down memory lane, right? To back when I was about 22 years old, and I was at the deepest dark point of my life, depression galore. It was nothing but just black clouds all around me, and I was in a huge mental, emotional funk. Now, at that time, I was completely on my own, doing my own thing in life. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't praying. I wasn't reading the Bible. I wasn't working on my mental strength. I wasn't working on my emotional strength. I was just somebody that was just lost, right? I was at a point in my life where I got out of a toxic relationship. My career path was all disoriented because I never made it to the Marines. I was just lost. And I honestly was dealing with a lot of suicidal thoughts, a lot of depression. But guess what? Hands down, that has been like the best, I like to say, chapter of my life, so to speak. Going through that chapter of my life, it sucked. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But it opened up so many doorways because I started to view things differently, because I never gave up. It was in fact at the very top of the hill, right? The mountain that I pretty much climbed, where I said, hey, I'm going to jump off this thing. That's when I heard, right, hey, just give it one more day. And that's what led to me, going on Google, typing in like, hey, like self-help, right? Like I need something here. Like I'm very depressed. I'm very, going through a lot of anxiety right now. Like, what should I do? I didn't know, right? I didn't have a lot of people to talk to in my corner about these types of things. And that's when I stumbled upon, yoga, meditation, reading, right? Like all these different things that I never really focused on. And I eventually, took a yoga class. I eventually got into meditation. Boom, right? Like it completely helped me overcome that challenge that I was in. But I had to view it differently. That was the whole thing, right? Looking back at it, greatest time, right? I'm so happy that I went through it. But actually going through it, oh my gosh, I wouldn't wish this upon anybody. Like, can we please pray that this is over with? And I'm sure maybe in your life, you've been through chapters where you're experiencing that. Or maybe right now, you're on that page, right? Where you keep on reading it over and over again. And you're like, man, when is this page just going to end? When can I just flip the page, go into that next chapter of life? You know, hear me out. It's going to come. Okay. We all go through seasons of life. But once again, how you view that season of life, how you view that, can you view it from the lens of, man, I'm just being faced with all these challenges, faced with all this adversity. This sucks right now. Or can you view it and say, hey, what can I actually learn from this? How can I actually grow from this? Is there something in the midst of the storm right now that I'm supposed to be learning? So that way it's like these, I like to say, growing pains that we're going through, right? You're growing through them. You're not going through those pains. You're growing through those pains. So this is one thing that I want you to kind of understand is that pain is always going to be by far, right? One of the greatest motivators, one of the greatest educators right now. And whatever painful situation that you may be faced with right now, maybe you recently lost somebody in your family or a loved one. Maybe you're struggling to progress on your health and fitness journey. Maybe you're stuck in a career that it's just very toxic, you don't like. Maybe it's financial concerns, all these things. How can you flip into the switch, right? How can you change your perspective on that and actually do something instead of, just utilizing it as, oh, cry me a river, I'm dealing with this. How can you actually view that pain and just do some creative thinking and say, okay, hey, what can I do as this, I like to say this minor setback that I'm dealing with right now to catalyst for more growth? How can I think it was actually TD Jakes, I believe, yes, that said this, that, a setback is actually a setback for a comeback. So whatever you're going through right now, how can you just view it and say, what is the lesson to be learned? Like maybe it's financial stress that you're going through right now. Well, it's like, okay, hey, can you do some, I don't know, Lyft or Uber on the weekends? Can you pick some, part-time hours? Can you go sell some stuff on Facebook Place? I mean, the reality is like there's millions of different ways to make money. It's just that, are we actually doing things to make more money? Or are we just constantly complaining? Because complaining does not make you any money at all. But I know plenty of people that do that. When I was in a big financial, concern in my life, guess what I was doing every weekend? Donating my blood and my plasma. Like I remember going always to those little, CLA shops all around, donating my blood and my plasma. Because guess what? I needed money. And pain is a great driving force. Pain is a great motivator if you want it to be. I know plenty of people that struggle about finances, but yet they don't look for new jobs. They don't do anything on the weekends, right? Like, dude, go out on, cut some grass. Like, it ain't that hard. It's just that, are you willing to actually do that? What about if you're struggling on your health and fitness journey? Like, let's just say, you're not seeing any progress. It's been a few weeks, right? You haven't seen the number on the scale go down. Well, it's like, okay, hey, do a deep dive, right? Assess the situation. This is why I'm a huge fan of accountability, right? Whether it's self-accountability or external accountability, where you have the right people in your corner that's actually pushing you. So do a full assessment right now, right? What can you do to push yourself even more, right? During the time frame and the routine and the schedule that you have. Like, can you do more push-ups? Can you push harder? Can you lift heavier weights? Like sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel or change anything. You just need to push yourself a little bit harder, or you're just coasting and just going through the motions. And then you got to ask yourself like, okay, is this pain of me not progressing? Is this pain of me not reaching my health and fitness goals? Is it actually hard for me, right? Enough of a pain for actually me to change anything? Like that's the reality. If I was going to tell you right now, hey, I need you to lose 5 pounds by the end of the week, and I'll give you like a Kit Kat bar or a Snickers bar. The reality is like, you probably wouldn't lose the 5 pounds. Like you wouldn't care. There's no pain there. But if I was like, hey man, you got to lose 5 pounds by the end of the week, or else like, we kidnap your kids and you ain't getting your kids back pretty much. Like you either got to lose the 5 pounds or you never see your kids again. For some people that may be listening to this podcast, they might take that deal. For the majority of people though, right, they're going to lose the 5 pounds. And hopefully you would too. But you can see in here that when there's a pain, right, It's going to push us. It's going to challenge us. It's going to make us think differently. It's going to help us create different actions. And that's essentially what's going to change our life. But in order for us to actually use the pain to push us to pleasure, we first need to see it that way. We need to see that this pain, this challenge, this adversity is actually a stepping stone to success. It's actually something that we can grow from and utilize, rather than just sitting there and just say, oh, why me? Right? Like, when is my life going to change? Right? Remember, complaining doesn't change anything. It only just makes things worse. It only just constantly makes you focus on the problem rather than focusing on the solution. I believe it was Albert Einstein that said the same thinking that causes the problem will never be the same thinking that fixes the problem. Something along those lines. The same thoughts that, created that issue, that complication, that challenge that you're faced with right now, you got to change your mindset. You got to change your thoughts. That's going to help you get a whole different perspective shift to start helping you start taking action, because that's what you really need to do at the end of the day, So my question to you is, how bad do you want it? That's realistically what it boils down to, is how bad do you want it? Do you want to move mountains for it? Do you want to go above and beyond for it? Do you want to say, hey, I want this bad enough to breathe. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to get over this challenge. I'm going to get over this hump. I'm willing to do whatever. Or is it just going to be something where we constantly say, why is this going on in my life? What's going on here? Like, why me? Why do I constantly be fed all these curveballs and challenges? Like, when is it ever going to be my time? It's like, once again, right? We can have that viewpoint. We can focus on that, but that's not a good way to look at it. That's looking at the glass being half, empty rather than the glass being half full. I like to see things from that perspective of, okay, hey, there's a lesson to be learned from this. How can we grow from this? How can we overcome this? How can we improve not just our lives, right, but maybe other people's lives as well through this challenge, through this pain? I'll leave you with this, right? Jim Rohn said it best. He said there's two types of pain that everybody goes through in life: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And there's been plenty of times in my life where, looking back, there's been plenty of regrets. But I've also dealt with a lot of times and challenges where I just was disciplined. I just showed up. Even when, life wasn't going my way, I continued to put one foot in front of the other. And sometimes that's 90% of the battle right there, is just showing up, is just stepping into the arena. Life is pretty much 90%, of like how you view everything and how you overcome these challenges and your mindset and your perspective. It's only about 10% of what actually happens to you. So how are you viewing those challenges? And I would love to know from you, and you can just leave a comment down below. Like, when life throws you challenges, how do you view them? Like, is the first initial reaction like, oh, this again? Like, why me? Because then you can really, honestly, like, assess the situation. If you're constantly going through the same curveballs, constantly going through the same challenges over and over again, maybe it's stress at home, maybe it's stress with your finances, when is it going to be time for you to make a change, right? If it's financial stress, well, hey, pick up something on the weekends to do. Pick up a side hustle to do, right? Like, it ain't that hard. Maybe it's looking for a different career opportunity. Once again, like, you are the one that's in full control over your reality. Change the script. You have full permission to, So when it comes down to viewing these challenges, change it differently on how you see them. See them as a perspective of, okay, hey, this is something that I need to learn. I need to grow from this, and I can, right? That's that belief. That's that faith. I can. It's possible. I actually heard this one time from, I think it was one of the UFC fighters. He said on those little YouTube shorts, he said that if everybody in the world threw their problems into a big pile, he said you would be the first one to dive in head first, grab your problems, and pull it out of that pile. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. We constantly view our challenges and problems as like, man, this is the end of the world, right? Nobody has it way worse. But we often forget about this one little word that's called gratitude. That, hey, even though these things out there that, the curveballs, they're challenges, we also have to take a look at, even though we're dealing with this, what is all these amazing things that we also have going on for us in our lives? Maybe this is just clothes. Maybe this is shelter. Maybe this is toilet paper, toothbrush, toothpaste, right? Running water, food in the fridge. The fact that you even have a job, even though you hate it and you don't make enough money and you're constantly stressed about it, it's still a job, still a perspective shift to say, hey, I'm actually grateful for this. Because that mindset going into those challenges, I'll tell you what, that's going to make those challenges not be there very long. That's going to help you easily read through those pages, flip the page over, and eventually advance into a new chapter of life. But with everything, it's how you view it. So I would love to know from you in the comment section below, how do you view those challenges? I'll be honest, right? Back before I started working on my mental and my emotional and my spiritual state, I would view challenges as like the inevitable. Like, oh, why does this happen to me? This sucks. Cry me a river. I'm never going to overcome this. Now I view those challenges as I got this. I've overcame so much by far in my life. I use those past challenges, those past adversity, those past curveballs. Guess what? I use that as motivation. I use that to say and look back in the rearview mirror of my life and just say, you know what? I was able to do this. I was able to overcome this. I can definitely overcome this next challenge, this next opportunity, whatever it is, adversity. I can overcome it. I know I can. And that's going to change everything with how you view and start going towards those praying points. Start going towards those challenges in life. Remember, just like Steve Jobs says, I'll leave you with this, okay? You cannot connect the dots looking forward in life, but you can always connect the dots looking backwards in life. So think about that as well. And maybe if you want to leave a comment below, right, on this YouTube video, letting me know also, what was a challenge in maybe your life that you had to overcome? And looking back at it, you're actually really grateful of a challenge. You're actually really grateful of that pain. You're actually really grateful of that adversity because maybe it was getting you into a whole different path, a whole different, alignment with something else that ended up working out better for you. That actually was like protecting you almost. Literally, I can count on both hands, right? Like so many times in my life where I wanted something, or, this challenge or whatever the case may be, stumbling block came in front of my path and it stopped me. But at the end of the day, maybe the thing that I wanted wasn't the thing that I actually needed. Maybe God was protecting me because he wanted something else for me instead. So I'll leave you with that. I really hope you guys got a lot of inspiration and motivation from today's episode. If you did, definitely give this video a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate that if you did. And as always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with Heartletics.com, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.